Greetings. I don't know how your winter's been, but here in Tennessee it's been odd. It's been really cold, and that's kept these old bones indoors. And in that same process, I've been able to do a lot of research on an overdue project, one that I was planning on and actually affected in time, which was to replace a mower, get a new zero turn for the property here. Now in that, this video is going to be in general about mowers, properties, features, the things that I discriminated against when I look and contrast and compare different makes and models in the entry-level commercial series availabilities at the time this video was. I settled on a brand that I thought was my best overall package. It may have features that I don't like as much, and there are other obviously very good models. So I'm not here to any of the models I didn't choose, I'm not here to say they're not good or anything like that, because it's not the case. I'm just saying for my personal, this is about my personal choices and things that I valued based upon how I intend to use it. And you really need to be honest with yourself when buying a mower, because if you buy too little of a mower, one that's not built up to the job, then that's really kind of like throwing money away, because you're going to have to replace it sooner. And it's just not going to hold up. You're not going to get hours. You're going to start running into your problems and difficulties more quickly than you would if you bought one up to the duty that you're going to use it. And buying one that is much more than you need or paying for the name, well, that's just like throwing money away as well. Because quite honestly, that money you save there, you could spend on something fun, because a mower is not what I call a fun purchase. It's sort of a necessity. It's something you have to keep property out. So, you know, that money you save may be enough to buy that new top end, that 458 SOCOM top end for your AR, or yeah, or a new couch, or the love seat, or chrome wheels for a truck if you're really into that kind of thing, which of course I'm not. But you know, or if you just happen to be born independently wealthy instead of incredibly good looking as I was. You know, you have to consider the finances of the situation. So with that, you know, this is just my opinion. I don't think there's anything really right or wrong about any of the brands, but there's just so many. In the products looked at, I did eventually settle on the Hustler X1i. It is an entry-level commercial unit, and all of the units I tried to compare it with were entry-level commercial units. Some may be described as top-end residential or whatever, because I'm still trying to balance as much as you can an equivalency in machine, and it's difficult to do when you're looking at price ranges and features. It's really kind of difficult to do. I'm trying to be fair. But of the brands looked at, Ferris, Snapper Pro, Skag, Bobcat, Exmark, Gravely. There's some tractor manufacturers out there make some good machines I looked at briefly, and there are a couple of kind of independents out there that are still running, and I think that's the lion's share of the brands that are available to me in close proximity. And when you look at a dealer, the brand is one thing, but the dealer has a lot to do with it, whether or not you can get parts. There are some companies out there which have been on the precipice of bankruptcy for so long. To buy something, from my personal opinion, to buy something from a company that you don't know if it's going to be in business is kind of crazy. I know the laws require them certain parts to be available, but unless you stock parts, something breaks that's a brand specific part, you might be just down. And that's something I didn't want to do. So the life of the company behind your choice is an important feature. XL, parent company of Hustler and Big Dog, they've been around a long time. In fact, they advertised that they were the originator of the zero-turn mower. Another company, Gravely, which is a pretty darn fine machine in the ones I looked at, in the ProTurn 100 was a good-looking machine. The company's been around almost for 100 years. Gravely company's been around for almost 100 years. So there's more than one feature or factor. Warranties, and Bobcat has a 5-year warranty as well, 500 hours, which beats the Gravely 3-year type warranty. But the issue you might have there is you got a foreign held company, and before it became foreign held, it sold out, so you've had some changing of hands. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's certainly a good sounding warranty, and that puts a definite feather in their cap. So you just have different features, different things you look at. But I settled on the Hustler. One of the features that I like was, of course, the front end, and I want to look at it. Now this is a Hustler fork, and if you can see on the commercial units, the way they do, they take their peg and it runs through, clean through to the bottom. Now this is what I call a broke band. It's just a flat piece of steel that they've bent over, and it's a little cheaper to make something like this, but you can also make it, as you can see, substantially thicker when you take basically a bar stock and bend it. If you take sheet steel, one of the features that you have with the sheet steel type construction is if I take the fork and I have it flat here so I can get a decent weld up here, so I have my inches of weld around, this is flat and this leans back, it casters back. That means I have sort of a bat wing shape, and when I have a bat wing shape, that means that's taking quite a bit of a blank. And we have a process in manufacturing called shakeouts or cutout or nesting, where we take a given sheet of material, and whether it's maybe the perfect gauge or not, we may have some pieces a little thick, we may have some pieces a little thin, you know, but we're putting as many pieces as we can in a sheet. After it's come out of shear and decoil, we've cut it out, we've got multiple pieces in there, and now we're trying to cut down the waste. So we put them in there, and now if they take something like that and they paint the whole sheet like you would a model car, like your child's model car that you glue together, it comes out in a big sheet and you cut them out. The edges where they're cut then either have to be touched up or repainted, or they're not at all. Now this, with the Hustler fork in this case, they actually band it with a top band that gives a very substantial fork. Now, one of the brands I mentioned was Ferris. The Ferris 2100 I was looking at, it's sort of the entry level. It may even be considered residential. I don't know how they phrase it exactly, or they draw their line, but it also has integrated wheel motors. It has a unique feature of having a suspension to it, which has, you know, some real benefits, that it rides comfortably. However, one of the downsides of that is there are a lot of fasteners, a lot of adjustments, and when you look at the structure of it, you have basically a cantilevered post out here and on the sides on that particular model, and you have a rod in, and the whole thing pivots like that. That's a lot of weight to be out on the front, seems to me. So in the end, I eliminated it for the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. I want as few bolts as I possibly can, because bolts vibrate loose, nuts, bolts, or worse, they get stuck and you can't get them off. And I like a solid welded construction. Now, if you look at Bobcat and Skag and some of the others, Grasshopper has on the 2600, or I believe the series is, they actually have a bolt-on wheel where the forks, the entire assembly here and spindle can be replaced, and that may be a feature that you like. But to me, it looks like a source that may rattle later on, and it's a source of something that can come loose. I think I prefer a solid welded construction, and here they've kept the length very short. In both cases, they look to me to be very well balanced left to right. This bridging is supports on the front and the back, and they have tie downs on either side, which also works as a gusset to support that bend there. And I understand through some of the literature they have some internal bracing. Now these are what we call Springer forks. They work to absorb some of the vibration. And I don't know if I can weigh enough because I'm just so slight, ever so slight, but they actually bend and take up around here. There's some spring loads in here which actually work to give it a front suspension. Several companies make that. And if you have a very rough or bumpy property, that can take quite a bit of vibration out of your unit. And vibration is not just for the rider, but it's also for the unit. These also here, semi-pneumatics, 13 by 6.5, which give a good wide platform. They help with your turf, and they also, being semi-pneumatic, help keep the ride a little bit better. Now, Gravely, I believe, had just full teumatic tires, and I think you'll see the stem here. So, pretty decent tire, I think. Tire size has a lot to do with the ride and comfort. The vast majority seem to be running 24 by 12s. That's the back tire. We'll go back there in a little bit. Others run 13. Now, if we proceed further back, we'll talk about the decking and the belt. Now, different manufacturers do this as part of the unit a little differently. One of the features that I do like is that this plate will come completely out. This way I can get to, for easy servicing, the belt assembly. Also, this particular unit, like a lot of them, take two belts. You have a belt for the hydro, which I'll show you belt access in a minute, for the hydros, and the deck belt. And the deck belt runs off the drive. Now, Gravely, the Pro Turn that I looked at was a fine looking machine, but it also used a double V belt. It has a V on this side, a V on that side, and also a Kevlar type belt. But it also had on one of the spindles a second belt on the deck, and then a hydro belt. That's 3 belts, and I'm sure that works well. But I think I'd rather just keep it down to numbers of parts, because I'm going to stock belts myself. And in that regard, what I do when I get a brand new unit is I read off the belt, off the belt itself. And I take the belt number down, and I can also cross-reference it to other purposes. Factory belts for this unit are about $70 and $20-something. So by crossing it up, I know I can come with a standardized belt. And this unit actually takes a 165.5 inch on the Kevlar belt for the big belt. But I can get a 165 or a 166 for $31 versus $70. If you do the math, that works out to what? 0.3% difference, I think it is, in the length. And as you can see, we have a chain link adjustment and a slider assembly on the tension. So this machine can easily take that. The hydro is also Kevlar, but it's a standard 1/2 inch by 64. So I know I can get some good parts for this. Make note of it right off the bat. And the removal of this, I personally want one I can take away. Is now I have this out of my way. There's one company that makes this board, flips up here. Now to me, this is liability waiting to happen. As you're working on this thing, you're going to come down possibly with a knife edge to hit that access plate. Folding it back that way also kind of gets it out of the way. But then if you ever need to work with the seat tilted this way, the plate's up. If you can't take the plate off, it's actually annoying. So I like this feature of being able to get down here and access the belt. And the end guards, to keep the build up, come off with knobs, hand knobs. So this one is built with a great deal of commercial intent, with a great deal of commercial operation. Now, discussion on the deck, as you have with this, is with so many models, you'll have a commercial model, you'll have a fabricated bent radius on the top, followed up by baffling on the inside if necessary, and you'll have a front reinforcing band in front, which is made out of a straight stock. How they do the anti-scalp wheels is fairly important if you're planning on running over a lot of stuff. However, this, as you can see, is a fully welded unit. If you look on this side over here, and on the opposite side, you'll see that these are fully welded in place. There's no bolts that can rattle loose and then you run over the unit if you're not really good with your mowing inspection. And I personally prefer that. They're also supported on both sides, which gives that wheel a little bit better support. So I prefer that. The end caps can be removed for easy cleaning to keep from building up your grass clippings up underneath it. And it's just, this unit is built for maintenance and access. And that's what you've got to look at in comparing a unit. When I looked at the Ferris and like the Snapper Pro, to me it appeared that the belts were extremely difficult to get to. Hydro belts on the Skags, whether it be the Tiger Cat or what is the other one, the Freedom Z, both of them suffered the same access. You had to come up from the bottom because they seem to be very, very protected from the top. We'll look at the belt access in the rear. Decks really have a lot in common across the brands. The model above this, the VX4 deck, it actually is built with a much gusseted reinforced front end to it. Now, the depth of your deck is going to have a lot to do with how well it flushes the clippings from underneath. If you have high loft blades, as what comes with this, you will eject the clippings well. It will get them up, float them, kick them out the side. That will give you larger clippings. It will let the engine run with less load on it. It will burn less gasoline because you're cutting it, ejecting it. It'll give you bigger pieces. Now, hand me that, will you? Yes. Okay. Another option, if your pieces are coming out large and you don't care for that, another something to do is like this gator blade here. Now, this gator blade is a mulching blade. It has a longer surface, and by having these little cuts, it lets less of a whirling vacuum effect, and so the clippings come back down and gets a chance to whack them a few more times. And this will help cut down the size of the ejected material. So, depending on what you want, you can adjust depending on what blade you put on it. Spindles. This by looking at the dates on the belt and the serial number, appears to be a 13 model. 13, according to the documentation, was to have cast iron spindles. Spindles are a big issue in mowers. These are aluminum spindles. Quite honestly, they'll take quite a bit of work. Exmark uses aluminum. A lot of companies use aluminum. It's not an inferior metal, but there's a lot to do with how it's designed. This deck, like so many, have what we call doublers on the top plate. You have the initial deck, then you have another layer, and that gives an additional layer of stiffness to keep that spindle in a proper plane. Now, as you spread the top plate or the footing of a spindle out, that gives it more support on the deck to keep it straight. It also then increases the likelihood you start to build up a little bit of extra grass. That's where a benefit of a deeper deck will benefit you, because the grass is keeping further down toward the ground. It's always lower toward the ground, and you have a little less buildup with a little bit deeper deck. A good tip is don't cut wet turf. Deck lift mechanisms all do basically the same thing. They lift and lower the deck. How they get that done varies depending on the manufacturer. Now, most of them have something similar to this foot-operated device. Now, one of the things that others have that I don't care for that kind of interfere with a little bit with this is the parking brake system, and I'll get to that next. But the lift mechanism, being a foot-operated here, is very, very simple. You push down on the lever, it takes the weight up and it moves the deck. You use the pin. I get up here and I'll show you. Push down and it raises the deck. So this is also very handy if you're coming across a piece of limestone, a curb or something you need to get over. You can raise that up and it gets it up out of the way. Adjustment then is made by virtue of where you put your pin. And very simple, not much to go wrong with it. It's adjustable on each side for the leverages, and it's spring adjusted if you want a little less foot pressure of the unit going down. I like it quite a bit. Now the Skag Freedom Z, which is, I've been told, well, that's really kind of a residential entry level, but it does have the integrated wheel motor and pumps versus the separate pump and wheel motor, has a mechanism in this area. And it has, to make that work, there's a lot of linkage up underneath the seat. And when the linkage is up under the seat, it kind of also obscures the ability to get to that hydro belt. But it's also, to me, a lot of complicated parts. It's convenient to have your adjustment right here, but ultimately I don't see them making that many adjustments in height. And this right here is just as difficult as it needs to be to suit me. A lot of people have that, or they'll have, I think Exmark has in some of theirs, a lever of this nature and pins to the side. Again, that starts to get up in your area, and I kind of like my operator nest fully open. This manufacturer seems to have that particular feature clean. Fuel tank capacity. Now on this is 6.8 on this, which will get me through my 6 acres. It does help stop. Now if you're a professional and you're cutting more than that, a larger tank capacity is a good thing. I like the effort gone into this. It keeps it low and reasonably sized. Fuel tank gauges on both sides, and I have a switch off in between. The Ferris 2100 I looked at had 2 tanks, but there's not a shut-off between them. So if you happen to pull a line or puncture a tank, you're out of gas because you're tied between the two of them. It's just a valve. So to me, that looks like I'd rather have a few dollars put in a valve and know that if I had a leaky tank and I'm a few days from getting one in, I can go ahead and leave it on the right or the left one that's not damaged and be able to go. It's operated off the back and it's easily accessible back there. The seat. This is not standard for this unit, although any of these in this range are going to have a decent, comfortable seat. I do prefer this seat, and they are available. The same seat is available in multiple units, so you'll see it on lots of different brands. The Tiger, let me get my notes, the Skag, the one above, the Tiger Cat comes with one of these, and the Gravely Pro 100, I believe, has the same seat built in. I had to pay a little extra for this. You can adjust it, tilt, you can adjust the weight, the tilt, the lumbar support, and you can adjust where the arms go. It's a very comfortable seat, and it's a suspension seat, so that takes out some of that ride. Seat access on this unit is as simple as pushing the bar down and lifting up, holding this forward. It can also go all the way forward if you need to by lifting the bar up and going like that. Now, as you can see, what I was talking about for access, for unnecessary complications, these members right here are for nothing more than to keep the materials out of the way of the cooling fan. Give it a little support, keep the cables from sagging. Now, you can get to the necessary adjustments that might need to be made. You can get to the bar mechanisms. This feature helps. Basically, it's a 3-bar mechanism, looks like. The deck is easily seen below. You can see the hydros. To flip this, if you need to push it, these particular bar motors, I believe these are Parkers, you flip a bar right there, and that disengages hydraulically so that you can push the unit or tow the unit if it were to die. And I can see the concrete below. Both of the Skag units I looked at, the Tiger Cat and the Freedom Z, all of this was blocked in. And being blocked in, what it did was, it made it difficult to access or see below. How much do you need in this area? I don't see what this is good for. To me, structurally, I have enough structure in the frame of this unit. I don't believe I need cross bracing. I got enough to hold the battery, I got enough to hold the engine. I got cross bracing back there in the bottom. So to me, I would prefer for my mechanic or myself to be able to access the full belting and anything else I need to get to easily, because that's going to be time, labor standards, or money. As I mentioned, the fuel switch, left tank, right tank, is here. Again, the 2100, the Ferris 2100 did not have a fuel switch. It just teed in together. It saved a little bit of money. To me, again, if you puncture a tank, this is a way you can run off the other. Now, these being poly tank, I like them personally. For me, this tells me that my company is financially solvent enough that I can invest in this rotor molded device. And it's also a little abrasion resistance. I know it's not going to rust on me. The engine is the Kawasaki that I chose on this one is pretty much the standard for the industry, the Kawasaki Cow Power FX 730. It's for a 60-inch deck. This is the one. The number refers to the CC displacement. The FX is their top of the line. It has the larger air filtering to it. And the purpose of that is you can work longer in dustier environments. Even if you're not a commercial operation, this may be important to you if you work in dusty areas. There's parts of Georgia where I'm familiar with, it's just chock full of kaolin. And I tell you what, that dust and the red clay gets all up in it. Sandy areas, the extra filtration may not be a bad idea. I don't know of all of the subtle differences between the FX and the FS and the FR. On the residential, the really low end units, you have a FR, which is the residential. And as you step up through the power, you run into the FS, which is a little bit different filtered for one thing. I don't know the other subtleties. The other engine options are the Vanguard engine, which I'm told is made by Daihatsu, I don't know, and sold through Briggs, and the Briggs engines themselves. And there are some that have the Briggs. Kohler is also in there somewhere. There is a Kohler Command and a Kohler Courage. I'm told the Kohler Courage is Chinese manufactured and the Kohler Command is American. Again, you'd want to verify any of those things with the actual engine manufacturers. But for me, when I look at this, I have a sufficient bumperage for backing into something. And here I actually have a purpose for which I do want bolts, because now I can actually bolt this off to access anything on the engine I need to. There's a time and place in it to every purpose under heaven, and here is a place for bolts. My frame, in my mind, is not a place I want bolts. Your tires are going to have a lot to do with how your unit rides. In general, the smaller the tire, the less of this you're going to have to take up your bumps and bruises. Also, the wider this is, the less you're going to have for grippage in wet sod. Now this is approximately 11.5 inch wide tread width, and of course it is being a 24-inch tire, 24 by 12, the rim is 12 this way, and it's got 11 this way. So a 23, which a lot of people are now using on some of the smaller units, is not going to ride as good, I don't think, and it's also going to be just a little bit less footage here. It's going to be closer to a 10. The 23 tens, just a smaller tire. I don't think it takes a great deal of genius to see that effect. But one of the other units I mentioned, the 2100 Ferris, uses, I think, a 23 as well as the Skag and I forget the Bobcats. I forget the number of units that use a 23. But the Gravely, I think, may use a 23. the issue that you have with those, John Deere uses a 24, I believe, in those things is if you look up the size tire, 24 by 12 and the 23 by 10, look at you might Google the tire sizes and see the cost of the tire, see the availability of the tire, see what number of options you have. I know when I looked it up in 24, I was able to find a 6-ply, a 4-ply, and a 2-ply tire of one manufacturer alone. So I can get a little thinner tire up here for a little softer ride if I want to, or if I have too much trouble with the Bodock and the Honey Locust getting to my tires, I can always go 6-ply. So I've got plenty of option to go with this particular tire. Controls. What can you say about controls? Your basic controls. Exmark has a monitoring system, kind of a computer monitoring system, which will help you with some of your maintenance reminders. That's a nice feature. I believe this unit is one of the ones that has sort of the modular electronics, and that's going to be also very helpful for troubleshooting and time saving as well. You got throttle, you got your choke, you got your PTO switch, power switch, hour meter, oil warning light, and right here in this spot is where your light switch goes if you have the light kit put on there. Gasoline goes in the gasoline tank. You've got dual fuel gauges, and on the next model up, the X1, which is a really nice ride, these tanks have a translucent window built into them, and from that you can actually see the fuel level in your truck as you trailer back and forth where you're going, if you're going somewhere with it. For me, this is on the estate property. That's what they classify single user residential use, where, you know, like mine, they call it 6 acres or so, they generally call that an estate. There, I'm not hauling it anywhere, so that's not really that big of a deal to me. I can read the gauges. But that's a nice little feature in the next model up. All right, now, I guess we're ready for the summary. Before you go mowing, you got to put on your sturdy shoes. Steel toe work shoes would be better. Keep it, because, you know, if you like your toes, you can keep your toes. If you ever get one up underneath a mower, it can take them off a whole lot quicker than you put them back. So it's always a good idea to do it. You got to wear your free t-shirt and a hat they gave you when you bought your mower, else it'll violate your warranty. What? Don't tell them that, because it's not true? Okay. You can wear your hat and your t-shirt that they gave you when you bought your mower. I'm assuming they'll give you, when you spend this kind of change for a mower, they'll probably give you a hat, t-shirt, no matter what brand you buy. But you probably want a hat to keep the sun out of your eyes, eye protection to keep the dirt and the filth out of your eyes, something from hitting you, making you where you can't see good. Wraparound eye protection is better, but I wear prescription. These are what work for me. Long pants, and, you know, basically a shirt. And I meant to take my bullfrog and put it all on my nose, make my nose all white light, but, you know, that'd kind of mess up this Eric Church look I got going on right now. So, you know, it's just basically you want to dress for what you're doing. You never want to drink and mow. I mean, I know that's kind of common sense, but you'd be surprised the number of people that ain't got any sense. Work with your ROPS, your rollover protective structure, and you got to work with your seat belt in place, because this won't do you any good if you're not belted in. Now, hopefully you're not going to flip over, and the mower you selected has a fairly low center of gravity, and it weighs enough. Some of these mowers I was looking at vary between 900 and about 1,200 pounds, and that extra weight helps keep everything down. But some of them, and you want to look at that when you decide, have an awfully high center of gravity. But this dude right here will do you absolutely no good if you're not belted in when the thing flips over. It will do you no good if it's not erect in the up position. So use the sense God gave you. Somebody loves you. Why, I don't know. Last year we had 2 high-profile publicized deaths, subcontractors for TDOT, I think it was, rollovers, and of course they, you know, didn't wear the belt, weren't belted in, they didn't have the ROPS up, and when the machine rolled over, it, you know, that just was senseless. Anyway, the summary for this is, I did pay a little extra for the suspension seat. Some of the models I talked about come natural with the suspension seat. The arms are adjustable, the lumbar is adjustable, your weight is adjustable. I added the spring forks on here to help take the vibration out. My upper field, the upper 3 acres, is rough as a cob. What? No, I'm not going to ask them if they know why I use both red and white corn cobs in the outhouse. What? Because they either know or don't want to know. Stop. Don't interrupt me. Come on. These units, all of them are good quality units. I don't think you could actually go bad with any of these brands. There are features about this one I preferred, which was an all-welded frame, easy access to the belts. The belt plate, the deck plate in front comes completely out, so I can get to the underneath the seat, then folds completely over. I can get to the rear belt, the hydro belts easily. It's just, this machine seems to be built completely for maintenance and access, and I like that about it. 60-inch, 24-inch, 1224s on the back, 13 6.5 semi-pneumatics in the front, springers. I retain the old forks in case, you know, these ever play out on me. I can just swap them out. There's nothing wasted. There's the front spindle bearings on the casters. There's not even unnecessary caps on top. Because why do I need a cap on the top of that? You know, to hide the bolt and the washer that holds the spindle on. I mean, you can have that, but I don't care. There's nobody but me and the grass and the deer and the turkeys up there going to see the front end of my mower. I don't really care. Welded solid, tie downs, 2-inch by 1.5 inch, 3/16 box steel tube frame. What is that? A 7-gauge deck reinforcement with reinforcement in it. Fabricated deck, aluminum spindles, welded on. What do they call those? Anti-scalp. 6-year warranty. By buying one I did, I got a 6-year warranty. Lifetime on the frame, limited on the frame and on the leading edge of the deck. Now, to run through some of the options, X-Mark, excellent machine, good quality, semi-pneumatic tires on the front. The Laser S series, 12 gallons and 8 gallons on the Laser E. Good units, more gasoline capacity on it. Both of them had 24-inch rear drive tires, 1224s. Integrated. Did not like the deck lift system as well, and but it's a little bit pricier unit, but a very, very good quality unit. The Skags also had a 24-inch, a little higher price from what I had available. It did have separate pumps and pump motors. That's on the Tiger Cat. The belt access was not good on either the Tiger Cat or the Freedom Z to suit me. 22s and on the smaller deck units and 23s on the Freedom Zs. Again, the belt access wasn't the greatest. I didn't care for the deck lift on the Freedom Z. It has kind of different way of lifting, but a good quality machines. Both of those good quality machines. The Gravely's, now that's not a bad alternate. Gravely, the ProTurn 100 XDZ, that right there has a pretty decent warranty, kind of 3-year on the engine, but they had 23-inch tires, and I think you'll find from the Grasshoppers, the Skags, the X-Marks, Deere, I think you'll find most of the commercial units are going to carry a 24/12 rear tire on it, and that just helps your grip. It helps your mower hold the turf. It helps the ride. It helps the comfort. When you start getting into some of the others, the Bobcats, the Gravely's, Ferris, Snapper Pros, some of those, and some of the smaller units are going to start going into those 22s and 23s and 20s and so on down. The Gravely ProTurn 100 XDX, good company, been around for almost 100 years, and you've got to look at the length that your company's been in business if you're going to think about you know, will the companies building this thing even be around? Our parts thing's going to be hard to come by later on. Is it somebody who's been around but it's recently been sold? Price was not bad on the Gravely. Bobcat though, Bobcat's recently been sold, I understand. Bobcat Fast Cat Pro had a 5-year warranty. It rivaled this one right here. However, I think it had the forks were not the same. A lot of bolt-on parts. I don't care for the bolting on of a front end like the Skag had or the Bobcats had. I also looked at the Ferris 2100, which is new this year, I understand. New for 2014, and it has a suspension system. It's basically the Snapper Pro and the Ferris are very similar, except the Ferris has a unique suspension system. It's a nice unit, but as I looked at it, quite honestly, there just seem to be so many piece parts, bolts, screws, and things of that nature, that in the end, I wondered how some of the cantilevered pieces that are just, you know, anchored on one end, how that's going to hold up in the length of time that I intend to own my machine. And the price, of course, was significantly higher. Excellent machines. I didn't get really into the actual dollar price because they're going to be vendor dependent. Some manufacturers may actually prohibit discounting, price discounting. Others may not. Your dealer is going to be your key. It's going to be a key to anything. It doesn't do you any good to buy a mower that your dealer's out of business, or if they're hard to work with, if they can't get parts, or the company that you're buying from is having issues. You got to have a good relationship with them. I bought my machine, as it says right there. I don't know if it shows up on HD, through Nashville Lawn Equipment. Excellent bunch of young guys up there. They were good to me. Didn't promise anything they didn't deliver. Didn't deliver anything they didn't promise. This company that makes these are reported to be the ones who invented zero turn. Everything about this machine is business and absolutely nothing else more. So they make fancier ones, faster ones. But for my needs, this is no more, no less than what I need. Had I stepped down to the residential model that's just right below this, I'd have had a 4-year warranty. So by planning and knowing my dealer and talking to them, know what's available, I think I was able to make my best purchase. It may not be right for you, but it certainly is what does me good. So when you take to the fields, wear your eyes, have your ears plugged with enough noise dampening not to cause damage, but where you still hear somebody yelling at you if you're having a problem. Keep your toes on the machine and protected, and have a safe driving season. Well, that concludes the review of my thought process of looking at the design features, key features, construction of these entry-level commercial units. You know, I know some of them may be slightly considered high-end residentials, or just right at that spot where you're exiting the residential market, or new mowers that enter, you know, try to cover that little gap that is the estate market, which is really where I'm at. I mean, I'm not a commercial cutter. I'm not a green industry person. I'm just trying to cut a fairly large acreage, and I want to do it for some years to come without having to worry about my machine breaking down. So that's a key thing for me. I want something that's going to hold up, fairly rough turf on the upper field, and I think I found my best option. Lots of good mowers, lots of good options. The dealers, there wasn't a dealer that I talked to I didn't think was top-notch. So that's it. I'd like to hear from you guys, your success stories, anybody who has histories as far as maintenance with theirs, that type of thing. And it may not, may not matter that much, but I really appreciate the serviceability of a piece of equipment. And, maybe it's being able to bolt the front end on a mower may be something I wish I had later, but for right now, I really believe in the keep it simple, stupid principle. So until next time, I appreciate it, and I hope Anyone who favors one of the other brands doesn't feel like I'm dogging theirs, because I'm certainly not. It's just a decision had to be made, and this is my choice for the reasons I hope were made obvious. Thank you. Have a good season. Cut safely. Wear your seatbelt and your ROPS. Keep your ROPS up.